Picture this, the 12th century Middle East. A land of crusaders, caliphs, and kings. And in the heart of this turmoil, two legendary figures are about to clash. One, a sultan destined to unite the Muslim world against the crusaders. The other, a mysterious grandmaster leading a secretive order of assassins from a mountain fortress. This is the incredible, true story of Saladin and the Hashshashin. Saladin, or Salah al-Din, wasn't born a sultan. He was a Kurdish warrior who rose through the ranks with military genius and political skill. By the 1170s, he was on a mission to consolidate power in Egypt and Syria, creating a unified front to drive the European crusaders out of the Holy Land. His ambition was huge, and it made him a lot of powerful enemies. But one enemy wasn't like any other. Deep in the mountains of Syria, at fortresses like Nassif, lived a group known as the Nizari Ismailis. The crusaders called them the Assassins, a name derived from Hashshashin. They were led by a figure known as the Old Man of the Mountain, Rashid al-Din Sinan. Sinan was brilliant, enigmatic, and utterly ruthless. His followers, the Fide, were devoted to him, willing to undertake deadly missions to eliminate his political rivals. They were the special forces of their day, masters of infiltration and political assassination. So, why did these two powerhouses come into conflict? It all started with Saladin's expansion. As he moved to conquer Aleppo in northern Syria, he stepped on the toes of the local rulers, many of whom were allies or at least paying clients of the assassins. Sinan saw Saladin as a direct threat to his influence and the independence of his mountain strongholds. A Sunni sultan aiming to unite all of Syria under his banner was bad for business for a Shia sect like the Nizaris. The stage was set for a confrontation. The first attempt on Saladin's life came in late 1174 or early 1175, during his siege of Aleppo. A group of assassins, disguised as soldiers, infiltrated his camp. They launched a sudden, ferocious attack, aiming for Saladin himself. A chaotic sword fight erupted right in his command tent. Saladin was a formidable warrior and was surrounded by loyal emirs. One of his emirs was tragically killed, but Saladin, protected by his armor and his guards, survived the bloody assault. The would-be assassins were cut down, but the message was clear: no one was safe. Saladin was shaken, but not deterred. He continued his campaigns, growing more powerful with each victory. This only made him a bigger target for Sinan. A year later, in 1176, Saladin was besieging the fortress of Azaz. The assassins struck again. This time, an assassin disguised as one of Saladin's own soldiers got even closer. He lunged at Saladin with a dagger, striking him in the head. But luck, or perhaps fate, was on Saladin's side. He was wearing a mail coif, a type of chainmail headgear, under his helmet. The blade scraped off his helmet but couldn't penetrate the mail. It only managed to slice his cheek. Another chaotic brawl ensued, and again, Saladin survived. 2 attempts. 2 failures. Saladin was now furious and paranoid. He couldn't trust anyone. He implemented extreme security measures, sleeping in a specially constructed wooden tower within his tent and scattering chalk and ashes around it to detect any footprints. He knew he couldn't live like this forever. He had to deal with the source of the problem, the Old Man of the Mountain himself. So, in the summer of 1176, Saladin did something bold. He turned his powerful army away from the Crusaders and marched it straight into the Nusairiyah Mountains, toward the assassins' main fortress, Nassif. This was unheard of. These mountain fortresses were considered impregnable, surrounded by treacherous terrain, and defended by fanatics. The siege of Nassif began. Saladin's forces surrounded the castle, but taking it was another matter entirely. The terrain was difficult, and the defenders were fierce. And then, strange things started to happen. Saladin's army suffered from mysterious ambushes and skirmishes in the night. The morale of his troops began to fray. They were fighting ghosts in a land that belonged to the assassins. What happened next is the stuff of legend, a story that blurs the line between history and myth. The most famous account tells of a night during the siege. Saladin awoke in his heavily guarded tent to find something was not right. On his pillow, there was a hot scone, the distinctive type baked only by the assassins, and a poisoned dagger. Pinned to the scone was a note. The message, written in menacing verse, was from Sinan. It basically said, "We could have killed you while you slept. The hand that placed this dagger here can just as easily plunge it into your heart. We are warning you, leave." Imagine Saladin's reaction. Cold dread. Even with all his guards, all his precautions, the old man of the mountain could reach him in his sleep. He had proven his point in the most dramatic way possible. Sinan had demonstrated his reach and his power without shedding a single drop of Saladin's blood. He wasn't just an assassin, he was a master of psychological warfare. Another version of the story claims that Saladin's own uncle, the Emir of Hama, mediated a truce. He warned Saladin that if he continued the siege, his own family members back in Syria might become targets of the assassins. Sinan also sent messages, reportedly asking Saladin, did he want to take out an enemy who might one day be a useful, if unconventional, ally against their common foe, the Crusaders. Whatever the exact details, the dagger on the pillow or the political negotiations, the result was the same. Saladin abruptly lifted the siege of Masyaf and withdrew his army. He never attacked the assassins again. A truce was formed. It was a stunning turn of events. The mighty Sultan, who had defeated armies across the Middle East, had been stopped in his tracks by a shadowy grandmaster. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. This wasn't the end of their relationship, it was the beginning of a new one. Saladin and Sinan, two of the most powerful men in the region, realized they were more useful to each other alive than dead. They shared a common enemy in the Crusader states. From this point on, they had an understanding. While they never became close allies in the traditional sense, they largely stayed out of each other's way. There are even reports suggesting that the assassins occasionally acted in Saladin's interests. For example, when the Crusader leader Conrad of Montferrat was negotiating with both Saladin and Richard the Lionheart, he was suddenly assassinated in the city of Tyre in 1192. Two assassins disguised as Christian monks stabbed him to death. While the assassins claimed they were acting on their own, many historians, both then and now, speculate that Saladin may have had a hand in it, or at the very least, benefited greatly from it. Conrad was a major obstacle to Saladin's plans, and his removal was incredibly convenient. We'll never know for sure if Saladin contracted the hit, but the truce he made at Masyaf certainly opened up some fascinating possibilities. The story of Saladin and the assassins is a masterclass in power, fear, and pragmatism. It shows that in the complex world of medieval politics, your deadliest enemy could become your most strategic asset. Saladin learned that some enemies are not meant to be conquered by force, but neutralized through respect and understanding. And Rashid al-Din Sinan cemented his legacy as the Old Man of the Mountain, a leader whose power was measured not in the size of his army, but in the reach of his influence and the terror he could inspire. Their clash was brief but legendary, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse that ended not with a bang, but with a quiet, mutual understanding. It's a testament to the fact that history is often shaped not just by grand battles, but by the secret deals, the psychological standoffs, and the whispered threats exchanged between titans. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into medieval history as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories you won't find in most history books. Let me know in the comments what historical clash you want to see covered next. See you in the next video.